Welcome back. So next up, we're focusing on deleting campgrounds, which is nice and short actually. It's a single route. Remember, our destroy route is /campgrounds/ID as a delete request. And all we need to do is write a form that sends a delete request to that URL. We click on it, it removes it using find by ID and remove, and then redirects us back somewhere. So let's get started. Inside of my campground.js, I'm going to add a new route. And before I do that, let me just cut this and put it below the update campground route. And now we'll add in our destroy campground route, which I always think destroy is such a serious word for this. I don't know why delete doesn't work, but you'll hear people use them interchangeably. Technically, destroy is the term for RESTful routing. I think the main idea is that it's just supposed to be a different name than the actual verb, which is delete. So destroy, I might have called it remove or something. Anyways, so let's get started. We need an app or router, .delete. And then inside of here, our route needs to be /campgrounds, but remember we don't have to write /campgrounds because the way our routes are set up in the app.js, we're already adding /campgrounds in front of everything. So it's just :ID, request and response. And let's just do a simple res.send. You are trying to delete something. And then we need to hit that route, which isn't that easy because we actually have to make a form and we have to use method override. So let's do that now. On the show page, under the edit button, which we have right here, let's add in a form, and we can't just do it with a link because we have to use a form to send a post request that has _method in the URL equal to delete. So we'll make a form, and that form needs to have action and method. Method is post because that's what we have to do for method override, and action needs to be /campgrounds/ and then the ID, which we have with campground._ID. And you could also just copy what we have here without the /edit. So that's our form. And then all that we'll add in the form is a button, and it will have class equal to btn-danger, and then it will say delete. And that's all we should need to do. If we start the server up, refresh the page, it's not styled very nicely. We'll fix that in a little bit. I'd like for them just to be side by side. But because we have a form rather than just a link, it's not going to be in line. So it takes up the next line. And if we click on delete right now, it's still not going to work because we're missing one key part, which is our question mark at the end, _method equals delete. Now if we save and we go back, try that again, refresh, click on delete, it now treats it as a delete request, and we trigger this code. You are trying to delete something. So now let's actually delete something, which is pretty easy using Mongoose. Inside of here, we find by ID and remove. So campground.find by ID and remove, and all that it takes is the ID, which is request.params.id, and then we need to add in our callback with an error. And we'll just check if there's an error. It doesn't really matter at this point. We're going to redirect you to /campgrounds either way, but it's good to just have the code in place to handle the error, even if we're not doing anything different. So we'll send you back to /campgrounds. Of course, we can't go to the show page because hopefully that item has been deleted, so there is no show page anymore. Let's give it a shot, see what happens. Restart the server whenever we change our routes. Let's go back to /campgrounds. Let's remove Lily Creek and click on delete. There we go, it's gone. Great, so let's just make sure our edit and update still work. Let's change this title, some exclamation points, submit, that works. I won't delete it because we're running low on campgrounds, but everything seems to be working just fine. The last thing we should do is style this so that our form buttons don't end up on separate lines. And what's happening again is that This is wrapped in a form, and a form is not an inline element, so it goes down to the next line, as you can see if I select it correctly. No, I just deleted it. Let me try that again. Make sure I don't do that this time. There we go. Here's the form. Notice that it takes up the entire line when I hover over it. What we can do is give it a display property of inline. As you can see, then it snaps into line. To do that, let's create an ID. So we could just do style here and just say display inline, which is really not a good idea. So we'll give it an ID and we'll call it delete form, just like that. Save. Then we can go to our style sheet, public style sheets main.css, and we'll just add # octothorpe delete dash form display is inline, so that it's treated like an inline element rather than inline block or block. So let's try that. Restart the server, refresh the page, and you don't notice a difference because I had already fixed it in the last page before I refreshed, but it's working now every time I refresh the page. Great. So that's all we need to do to display them correctly, to make them match up, go in the same line. If we resize, things still look good. You could play around with the button sizes. If you want to make them smaller, just use btn XS right here, if you prefer how that looks. Totally up to you, of course. Just take a look. Looks a little nicer, possibly. The next step that we want to do is make sure that you only have permission to edit and delete if you're logged in and you created this campground. I don't want anyone to come in and be able to delete it or edit it. I only want Potato Head to be able to do that. And there's a few steps involved there. So one of them is just hiding the buttons if it doesn't belong to me. So if I'm not Potato Head, I shouldn't see these buttons. But even if I did see them and I clicked on one, I should have some middleware that doesn't let me progress. It doesn't let me edit. It doesn't let me delete, even if I am signed in. So there's two layers of protection. One is just not showing the buttons unless you own this campground. And the other layer is done through middleware. So that's what we'll be up to in the next video. I'll see you in a bit.